The actor who famously refused to attend John Wayne's funeral, Lee Van Cleef, was born Clarence Leroy Van Cleef, Jr. on January 9, 1925, in Somerville, New Jersey. Growing up during the Great Depression, he developed a disciplined and resilient nature that would define both his life and his acting career. Of Dutch ancestry, Van Cleef was raised with a strong work ethic, which later helped him navigate the brutal realities of Hollywood. Before the spotlight ever found him, Van Cleef served honorably in the United States Navy during World War II, joining an elite underwater demolition team, the precursor to the Navy SEALs. This dangerous service instilled a toughness and stoicism that would later become the hallmark of his screen persona. Few movie villains could claim such real-life bravery behind the scenes. After the war, Van Cleef studied acting, performing on stage and in early television productions. Hollywood soon noticed him, but not as a leading man. His sharp facial features, thin frame, and piercing gaze made him unconventional at a time when studios favored square-jawed heroes. Instead, he carved out a niche playing gunmen, henchmen, and hardened soldiers. Early film appearances included classics like High Noon, 1952, where he portrayed a menacing outlaw opposite Gary Cooper, and Shane, 1953, in which his cold-blooded gunslinger left an indelible impression. Throughout the 1950s, Van Cleef became a familiar face in westerns and war films, appearing on TV in The Rifleman, Gunsmoke, and The Lone Ranger. Though rarely the star, his performances carried quiet authority audiences remembered. By the late 1950s, however, his career slowed. A severe car accident in 1958 crushed his right knee, leaving him in pain and threatening to end his career. For years, he worked as a painter and handyman, believing his Hollywood dream might be over. In the mid-1960s, Italian director Sergio Leone changed everything. Leone cast Van Cleef as Colonel Douglas Mortimer in For a Few Dollars More, 1965, a steely, intelligent bounty hunter who matched Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name shot for shot. The role transformed Van Cleef into a complex, commanding presence. Success followed with his iconic portrayal of Angel Eyes in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966, a chilling, calculating villain whose cold stare and deliberate menace remain legendary. By 41, an age when many actors fade, Van Cleef had finally become a star. He headlined numerous spaghetti westerns, including Day of Anger, 1967, and Death Rides a Horse, 1967, bringing depth, pain, and quiet resolve to morally complex characters. European audiences adored him, and his name alone drew crowds. In later years, Van Cleef continued to showcase his versatility. He appeared in crime thrillers like The Hard Way, 1980, martial arts films such as The Octagon, 1980, with Chuck Norris, and cult classics like John Carpenter's Escape from New York, 1981. He even starred in NBC's adventure series The Master, 1984, and action films like Codename, Wild Geese, 1984, and Armed Response, 1986, demonstrating that his presence commanded attention in any genre. Off-screen, Van Cleef was described as gentle, intelligent, and deeply private. He married 3 times, first to high school sweetheart Patty Ruth, then to Joan Marjorie Drain, with whom he adopted a daughter, Denise, and finally to Barbara Havoloni, a marriage that brought lasting stability and companionship. Despite his long career, Van Cleef often clashed privately with Hollywood culture. When John Wayne died in 1979, Van Cleef refused to attend the funeral. Unlike many contemporaries, he felt no need to participate in public mourning. Wayne, he believed, represented everything wrong about the industry: domineering, politically assertive, and dismissive of actors who didn't conform. Van Cleef once explained, "I wasn't going to pretend. I didn't mourn him when he was alive, so why would I mourn him when he was gone? Even in his later years, Van Cleef faced health challenges, including heart disease, which eventually required a pacemaker. Yet his dedication to acting never wavered. Tragically, on December 16, 1989, he suffered a fatal heart attack at his home in Oxnard, California, with throat cancer also contributing to his decline. Van Cleef was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills with the epitaph, "Best of the Bad," a fitting tribute to a career built on unforgettable villains and anti-heroes. Lee Van Cleef's legacy remains one of intensity, resilience, and uncompromising honesty. A man whose silence at John Wayne's funeral spoke louder than any Hollywood eulogy ever could.